What we're gonna do today is we're gonna use this as a case study. Now you might not be able to see it right now, but I'm gonna pull it up on screen later, so just keep watching. So basically we're gonna use this property that we're sitting in right now as a case study for BRRR versus flips, and just explaining some of the pros and cons of both models and also talk about the numbers. So if we take this whiteboard, it's greatly drawn, I know, my handwriting is amazing. Where's my pen? So this is the case study. The purchase price was £179,000. Now the stamp duty was £6,500. The build cost, which is the cost of doing all the works, we didn't build ground up, but the renovation costs were £24,000. We also had associated legal fees of £1,500 and finance costs of £4,500. And that's because we raised £75,000 from private investors at a 10% over 6 months, which is where we got the £4,500. All in, it cost £215,500 to do this deal. Now, we didn't need all of that money, and you could have actually done the deal for less money in than we did it, because we had, approximately 40% LTV. You could have done it at 70%, but then your cost of finance here would have been higher. But bearing in mind how much money the deal made, that would have been fine if you had a lower amount of capital, and probably could have done this deal for less than £80,000. So let's talk about options. So it's BRRR versus flips, talking about the pros and cons of each option. Before we get into those, we need to know what the GDV is. So the GDV, or gross development value, was defined at between 275,000 to 325,000. Now that was the range of valuations we got from agents. So taking a mean value at 300,000 was what we agreed the RICS valuation at. So the value the surveyors came out and valued the property when looking at refinancing. So that's BRRR, which is buy, refurbish, refinance, and then rent. There should actually be one extra R in, which is repeat. If you make enough money, you can repeat the process and go again, and that's how you build up your portfolio using this model. Now, the RICS valuation was £300,000, right in the middle of the two agent valuations. Now, the loan to value that we would get from the new mortgage is 75%. And that is on your buy-to-let mortgage. So you would get a new loan of £225,000, which means your money left in is zero. See the smiley face, because that's a good thing. No money left in. No money left in because it cost us £215,500 and the new loan is £225,000, which means we are actually being paid £9,500 to own this property, which is sensational. It's £900,000 and a free property effectively. So mortgage payments, £500. The rental income is £1,350, which means the profit is approximately £800 a month. Now, yes, there'll be some additional costs, like if you don't self-manage, you'll have agency costs. You also need to bear in mind void periods, repairs, etc. for the duration you own the property. But even so, if you allocated 10% for that, you're still looking at significant return. The return on capital employed is this, and that's not an 8, that's infinity. The return on capital employed is unlimited because you've got no money in, so you're making unlimited returns effectively, which is why you have another smiley face. I feel like there should be a ding here, ding. Why, if all of this amazing stuff could happen in the BRRR model, would I flip? Well, number one is, to start with, generally speaking, in my experience, I get a slightly higher price, a premium for creating a brand new, really nice, never lived in product that people would happily pay closer to the top end of the agent valuations. So although I think it would be achievable to get 325, I've conservatively said 310. You need to then take into account you do have additional selling costs. So you've got your agency fees of $3,100, and then your legal fees, which you pay again for selling the property, of $1,500. Your total costs remain the same, adding in those additional sales costs, which means your gross profit is £89,900, which is absolutely sensational. Now that does take into account the cost of finance over 6 months, because generally it's really hard to sell a property in less than 6 months time if you've had significant uplift, which we have, taking it from 179 all the way up to 310, which is why you need to make sure you take into account those 6 months at a minimum. Generally speaking, I would budget for more and work on if it ends up being better, then that's great. Now, what that does mean is your return on investment is just under 120%, which is amazing. It's even more amazing when you bear in mind that that was achieved over a 6-month period. So if you were to annualize that, you'd be looking at an annualized ROI of over 300%, which is crazy. Okay, so let's move on to the pros and cons of both models. I feel like I'm getting too attached to this board, so I'm gonna put it down. I'm gonna talk about some of the pros and cons. And a lot of them are reversed between the two. So pros of the BRRR model. So to start with cash flow, you have that additional £800 of positive cash flow every month. So if you need cash flow, you need income, you're trying to leave a job potentially, you're trying to have more free time and you want passive income or relatively passive, amazing, massive bonus for you. You've then got the benefit of capital appreciation. If we look across the road, there is an amazing property across the road worth over £1 million. If you look in the local area, there's new build flats coming up of a similar size that they're selling for in excess of £400,000. So you can see the direction the area is going in, and so it would be a good property to hold to benefit from that capital appreciation over time. You've also got leverage. Down the line, you can use having equity in a property to leverage, to potentially get second charges on, to buy further assets when you need to. So it's not as good as full liquidity, but it does offer a balance of the both. And lastly, no capital gains, no CGT. On retaining the property and refinancing it, you don't pay capital gains, which is a massive saving. Now, what are the pros of flipping properties? So first massive pro is liquidity. You have liquid money. Have you ever heard the saying, cash is king? That was true today, it'll be true yesterday, and it's true tomorrow. Having cash in your pocket that enables you to move quickly means you can negotiate on future deals more favorably. You can potentially get better discounts and get deals you would have missed out on if you had to wait to refinance. So that's always a massive bonus. Number 2 from my list is the actual increased capital, because not only do you have the £98,000, almost £90,000 profit, you've also got the £75,000 in equity that you withdraw as well. So you've got a lot more working capital, so you can do bigger deals. And if you look at the return on investment that you were able to achieve here and think if you could repeat that process with a bigger deal, you could make a lot of money. So it's a real bonus as well. My next one, the increased sale price. We touched on it briefly, but it's increasing that GDV, getting a premium for having a brand new product. And when you've done something that's tailored to your target market, your end user, you can do that when flipping properties. And lastly is no management. So you don't have the day-to-day management of the tenants, the overheads, the potential voids, the repairs. It means that potentially you have more time to focus on flips and focus on an area that can make you more money. Now, the cons for both of those tend to be the opposite of what we've spoken about. But I think in determining what strategy works for you, it's really personal. Do you need that cash flow? Do you have the time to manage the asset? Do you have the time to go out and find another deal? What is your personal position like when it comes to tax? How do you own the property? And these are all things that you would want to consider when deciding whether or not you want to go down the flip or the BRRR strategy. So hopefully, I hope that's helped you in understanding a little bit more about the way I do things and why I do things. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe. You can ask questions in the comment section. And yeah, catch us for the next video where we talk about how to manage a refurb.